in.
No problem.
All right. I'm going to go to share screen.
Okay.
Come on. Start broadcast. All right, we're in.
Look at that.
Yeah, we are live now.
Welcome to the Volunteer and Combination Officer Section webinar. We're excited that you're here today to share, to listen, as well as share some of your experiences about I am the fire chief, now what? This webinar is also subtitled Avoiding the Legal Hot Seat. Fire chiefs today are in a serious legal hot seat. We just had a lawsuit settled in Illinois for $31.5 million where the incident commander failed to respond to a mayday and had no training to be an incident commander. So we're going to talk about some of those things today. I have a good friend and great instructor, Manny Fonseca, assistant chief of the former assistant chief of the Nashville Fire Department. Manny, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Manuel Manny, just Manny. I've been in the fire service 45 years, volunteer and career both, and I'm excited to share my experiences and the knowledge I have, and hopefully we'll have some good feedback on all this that we learned today.
And for me, I've been in the fire service for 55 years, retired as a fire chief after 35 years in the volunteer system, as well as a state fire academy director. So let's get right into the topics or to the subject that we have picked out for today and the things that we're going to cover. So uh, this part of this webinar is based upon a report that the Volunteer and Combination Officer section did on You're the Fire Chief, Now What? A guidance for new and interim fire chiefs. We realize that today we may have some people who have been a fire chief for a long time and are just curious to see what we're going to talk about. Well, one of the things we're going to talk about when the new year comes, it's time to set a new tone for your department. And one of the things that it says in the report under lots of templates. There are numerous templates in the back of this report. I encourage you to go there. How about creating a 100-day plan for training? Questions the fire chief may be asked, orientation, officer development handbook, lots of different things that you can use to help you develop that 100-day plan because you need to create. Maybe you're an existing fire chief. You might need to create a new vision for where you want that department to go. We don't want to get stuck in the status quo of, well, we've always done it that way. Manny will talk a little bit about that later, because with that kind of attitude, you're going to find out you're not going to do it that way all the time. So I encourage you to go through this report and pick out the things that are important to you. One of the things they talk about in here is continuity of operations. What's going on in your department, who's doing what, are they being successful at it? Are they really doing what they need to be doing? And that's a question you need to be asking of your officers. They all have assignments, but are they actually doing the things that you want to do? And I should say that in this presentation, either one of us, Manny will speak up when he wants to speak up if I'm talking, and I'll do the same thing. So if we have a little bit of stutter here, if all of a sudden Manny wants to speak, well, I will shut up in a second and let him have the floor. So, but again, we encourage you to go look through that. The first week, again, pick out good men and women. This is what the report says: good men, and I said men and women, to what he wants done and self-restraint to keep from meddling with them while they do it. Theodore Roosevelt said that. Sort of why it says men in those positions. But before you contemplate changes, you must at least have an idea of the way things are supposed to be operating. What is your mission or vision statements? I was not a big fan of mission or vision statements when they first started coming out years ago. I just thought it's something you put up on a wall and you don't ever look at again. And that's so wrong. So wrong. You need to have a mission and vision statement, and you need to live to those mission and vision statements. They need to be measurable. They need to be achievable. They need to be they need to hold people accountable for what it is that they do as a officer or as a member of that department.
Hey, Chief.
Yes, sir.
I recall one of the things about the mission and vision statement is that it needs to be looked at every year, and you got to look at it from that standpoint. Are is the mission and vision going to protect the citizens? Is the mission and vision going to create the platforms we need to move people forward? Because if you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're actually not moving. It's like running on a treadmill. You put a lot of energy into making things happen, but nothing goes forward. So take some time and get your committees and get your program personnel and decide, does this mission say what we want to do in the next year? If it doesn't, then you need to revise and update and make sure that everybody understands it. Because if they don't understand it at the lower levels, things at the upper levels do not move.
Well, great quote I'm going to use there from that statement, Manny, is make sure your mission and vision statements are showing you the go forward way of organizing and manage your department. So going forward, that's what the mission and vision statements are about. The planning P, you've probably seen that for many, many years, comes from the FEMA Incident Action Planning guide that was created back in 2019. Has been around for a long time, and you can see all the things that go into planning. We in the fire service, generally speaking, are not really good at planning. We are in the 4 minute response business. You know, we get a page, we get a tone, we get the radio on the station goes off. 4 minutes or less, we're on scene. But in the administration part, we need to be doing some planning. We need to be projecting the future. What are our future needs? But apparatus, equipment, stations, and personnel. You don't just all of a sudden get a large budget increase 1 year after you think about it. So use the planning P. You can rewrite the steps in this planning P. I did that many years ago for for an incident. Instead of having all this stuff about planning meetings and things like that, is what are you going to do on size up, organization, deployment, so on and so forth. So you can use this planning P model to develop any kind of planning model that you need to have for your department. SMART goals, you all can read. I'm not going to read all this to you, but SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound or time sensitive. And you need to have goals. You need to have, some people say, oh, you need to have a whole bunch of goals. Well, as a department, I would tell you, depending on the size of your department and the staffing level of your department, 3 goals for the year might be enough. 5 might be enough. But when you get to more than 5, you probably have a hard time keeping track of them. And the only way you keep track of your goals is what Mandy said a little bit ago about mission and vision statements. You got to have them in front of you. You got to talk about them at every officers meeting to make sure that people are working towards meeting these goals. Then, as a department, you can have 3 to 5 goals, but then each subcategory, apparatus, maintenance, training, administration, they can have some goals as well. But again, they've got to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time sensitive. The relevant is very important to the street firefighter. How does it help them on the street deliver services to the public? And that's really important to get the department to buy into it. It's got to be relevant. It can't be this pie in the sky stuff. Oh, we're going to hire 20 new firefighters in the next 12 months. That's probably not realistic for most departments, probably for any departments that's listening to this webinar. That's not realistic. So keep that in mind under SMART goals and develop your SMART goals. This is a model that you can use that helps you track progress and make sure that you're doing the right things.
Hey, Chief.
Yep.
One of the things about measurable, and was when I was in college and I did this in my department, I was in charge of the all the programs and finding out you got to ensure that you have a percent off. Percent of time personnel follow medical protocols, percent of time that people are doing something. And this is very important because you need a number to report. So when you look at the measurable, the percent of time personnel accomplish the training within the specified time. Because if you're not at 80 or 90%, then that is a great start for your personnel to start looking how can we get to 100%. Is it a budget issue? Is it time constraints? Is it whatever it is? So measurables is what you tell the public about what you need. Because if you need more money and if you have no numbers, they're not going to listen to you. Just because you say, I need more money does not make it. My granddaughter tells me that all the time. And I always ask her, why do you need it? She doesn't have an answer because I need it. I said, okay, well, that's not enough. So it goes to the same thing is if you're asking people for tax dollars, then they need to know exactly. And the more numbers you provide them, it tells you how you're going to use their dollars to improve your progress. And what does that progress mean to them as they sit home, watch TV while you're on duty?
Yeah. Well, great comment. Let me expand upon that a little bit, and just for a minute, those that are watching and those that will watch this maybe recorded version, I am your manager, mayor. I'm your political boss. You're the fire chief. I will give you anything that you want and everything that you want. Give me the list: people, apparatus, equipment, stations. Give me the list. It's going to be huge. Everything you want, I will give it to you. Now, my question as the elected official is, what do I get? You talk about measurable. Okay, so I give you new apparatus. What's measurable about that? Is it a maintenance issue? Are we having too many breakdowns? Are we having too many injuries? Is that a training issue? Is it a supervision issue? But what do I get as the elected official from you, the fire chief? And most fire chiefs can't give me an answer because they
Yeah.
can't measure. We have a hard time measuring what we do. You say, well, I'll improve response time. What difference does it make? Prove to me a 6 minute or 4 minute response time is better than 8 minutes. I know what the American Heart Association says for cardiac arrest. How many of those do you have a year? What's the chances of survival? If you're doing CPR on, we'll just say 30 patients in excess of 75 years old, is that a measurable outcome? Do you really think that we can bring those people back? I know I'm going to be in trouble for making that statement, but we're going to try. But yeah, we all understand what we're saying here. Sometimes we respond to events that we really can't intervene with, and we can't make better. But start thinking about what is the value of my fire department? What is the value of the services that we provide? We improve the quality of service or quality of life from the service that we provide. Yep. In what way? In what way do you improve the quality of life? Chief Brunestini used to say, you respond to a call, and the grass needed to be cut, the concrete needed to be finished. Those are tangible outcomes. Those don't happen all the time, but we take that as just doing our job. But that's part of our quality of life services that we as a fire department can provide to people. And I know some fire departments don't allow civilians to be in their vehicles, but if somebody was sick, they called 911 because they were trying to get to the doctor's office. Will your department allow you to put them in a pickup truck or a command car and take them to the doctor? That's quality of life. That's providing a service. And again, Chief Brunestine used to say, if you got a call, with a civilian in their vehicle, they'll probably be pretty excited to go along with you. So Manny brought up a great point about measurable. We have got to learn to measure what it is that we do, and it's part of that SMART goal process. So now we're going to move into some of the legal and moral liability, and what is the difference? And I made this slide up of what is there's a legal, there's what the book says, it's what the law says, but do we not have a moral liability? Is that if we don't respond in the fastest, safest, and competent manner, do we have moral liability? I know more fire chiefs feel bad after an event in which a civilian died, or maybe a firefighter was severely injured, or maybe a firefighter died. They feel bad because they didn't do the best that they thought they could have done. I don't say should have done, they could have done, because we all regret those kind of events. But we have a moral liability. And so as a new fire chief, understand, yep, Manny will talk about the law a little bit more here in a minute. You have the law that guides you, but you have a conscience, you have a brain, you have a heart, you have a gut. Trust those instincts. Manny, anything you want to add?
Yeah, on the legal part, you get and I'll say this because I went to law school, Florida State University, and I have a Juris Master's there. So one of the things that you're gonna find out is the composition of the law has changed as more and more attorneys are coming out. They're looking to see is where the money is. They have to find that money because they have to feed their families too. So what are they looking for is things that we miss in the fire service, things that were the the case that's happened in Illinois, the firefighter, 31 point something million dollars settlement. It was a settlement offer. So you got to start looking at, am I protecting myself? Am I protecting the organization and the personnel? And this all begins with your knowledge, your policy, and the training that you provide. And we'll talk more about exactly what's going on. But if you're not looking to protect yourself as a chief and protect your city and protect the personnel that are around you, you're gonna find yourself finding a new job. It just happens. It happens every day. I keep up with all this stuff, and I see the number of fire chiefs are fired every single day because they don't take the time to provide the legal protection that the city needed because they didn't think it was important at that time. So, but we'll go into a little bit more as we go on.
Getting, Manny is so in tune with this topic, about protecting yourself, your firefighters, or your employees, and the city. Now, I don't know if that's the proper order, but I would say that's the proper order. I'm not the legal opinion here, but you want to protect yourself first. You do not want a personal judgment against you and your family, because the family is the one that will suffer. You don't want your firefighters to have a personal judgment against them because you did not provide the training that they needed to do the job. And then ultimately, you are going to protect the city by protecting yourself and your firefighters. You will protect the city as well, or your employer. Do your job. I talked to so many fire chiefs, man. I talked about this program here. Do your job. What is your job? Your job is to lead. Your job is to not sit on the sidelines. Your job is to do the job. Get out there, get out from behind your desk, go out and get on the street, meet your people, talk to your firefighters, find out what's going on, go to community organizations, attend community events, be visible. That's your job. I know fire chiefs go, oh, I have so much administrative stuff to do. Yep. And it's never going to go away and it's never going to stop. But they're going to have a carnival 4 blocks from your fire station and the fire department doesn't show up. That's not doing your job. In today's world, you need to be out there on the street doing your job. And, don't look at your job description. Your job is to lead. Most job descriptions don't define lead. Well, lead is to be out there pushing the envelope, trying to tear the envelope up, doing something a little bit different. So, do your job is very important to being an effective leader and helping reduce some of the liability. Manny, anything to add?
One of the things when I was in Nashville, one of the things is I studied and I met regularly with 23 nonprofit the 23 nonprofit organizations. What that told me was what they were doing in their communities, the cultural problems, the issue problems, and how our firefighters have to interact to be more accessible and to be more responsive to their needs. So when you're dealing with certain religions and certain customs, how do you call by them knowing what's in their neighborhoods, with them knowing those cultures, it allowed them to be more progressive and allowed them to be to be welcome. And then, but the main thing that we saw was the positive remarks that we got from the city, from the mayor's office, excuse me, from the citizens saying how well those firefighters treated them. No, and because they respected their culture. That is part of the doing your job is understanding. We know we're going to fight the fire. We know we're going to take care of the heart attack. We know we're going to do all that stuff. But understanding how the community interacts with you is sometimes more critical to doing a great job and to being looked at as a leader in your community and your fire service.
Again, Manny has so many nuggets in this his talking. Understanding the needs of your community. You don't learn that by staying in the fire station. So again, as Manny said, get out there, go meet with these people, these groups, and find out what their needs are. You might be surprised what they say. And then, of course, like Manny said, they got good comments back to the mayor's office. That's always a benefit for the fire department, especially when it comes to negotiating a union contract or getting more benefits for the volunteers, whatever it might be. So this is one that, the law is not always black or white. And sometimes the decisions you make as a new fire chief or one of fire chiefs always been there, your decisions are not always black and white. The thing that I would tell you though is you need to be fair, consistent, firm, and friendly. Treat everyone similarly. I don't say the same. You can't treat them all the same. In the volunteer world, a high performer will be treated a little bit different than a low performer. It's just the nature of the leadership. Not saying it's always right, but if you're fair in dealing with that people, Manny just talked about understanding the citizens' need. In the volunteer world, you need to understand the volunteers' needs. If you have a volunteer who's not showing up for calls or not showing up for training all of a sudden for a month, call them up and find out what's going on. You might find out they got a kid that's in trouble, you got a parent that's near death, all kinds of personal things that you can say, oh, the rules say this, but is it treating that individual fairly? So again, I encourage you to do that. And the same thing in the career world. There are personal challenges that all of us have that will relate to how we treat them as a leader. And try to be consistent. This is not easy either. In the way you do it, being firm when you have to discipline somebody. Don't whitewash it. Don't try to make it something that it's not. It is discipline. And you will have to, I always told guys on my department, don't make me put my white helmet on because you won't like it. And so, again, you want to be firm. When you need to put that white helmet on or your whatever rank, put your badge on, do it. But be friendly. That's the last thing. Be friendly. Shake their hand when they come in. Speak to them in a good tone of voice. Speak to them in a nice way. When you end the conversation about the discipline, shake their hand again and tell them that this is not personal. This is performance related. Manny, anything to add?
One of the things they do in the law, very quickly is that they will pull all your records. They will subpoena on the discovery your records, and they're gonna see how you treated Joe versus Susie versus Tommy versus Beth. And if you're not consistent and you're not firm, then they're gonna start telling you how do you call that you are more lenient and maybe discriminatory because of some reason. So you got to make sure that your records reflect that you're doing the same thing over and over again. This way, when they look at them, for whatever reason, because somebody got injured or there is a lawsuit that somebody says you didn't do enough to save my house or my husband, whatever, they can look at all the files there and they see consistency. This way, that becomes a wash for them because there's no case there. If everybody's treated the same, everybody's done. You're doing the same things over and over in a consistent, fair manner. How do you call that? Is going to help you in the future. How do you call prevent lawsuits and protect your firefighters? And that's just the way it is. Because all the lawsuits that I read in all types of cases, it's because somebody didn't do their job, didn't write it down. Remember, if you don't write it down, it never happened. I'm telling you again, if you don't write it down, it never happened. That's just the way it is in the law when you read the court cases.
And when you write it down before you sign off on it, I would encourage you to have somebody else look at it to make sure that you haven't made a statement that may come back to haunt you. Because you might be writing this report from an emotional standpoint, not a factual standpoint. So again, I would encourage you to have somebody else review that report before you sign it or hit submit on the computer. A fire chief job is about managing people, and it's about a duty to act. And Manny, go ahead and explain what these terms mean.
When you have a duty to act within the law, is you have a fiduciary duty to do your job. That means you must know that job. If you're acting in charge or you're in charge, you better have the credentials to do that job. Because the first things they're going to look at, and the very first thing is your training records, your education records, all and everything that you've done within your career. They want to make sure that you knew what to do in that event. And when you have that duty to act, that means that not only do you respond, you knew exactly what to do, how to manage the people, how to manage the resources, and how to manage that scene. So that is the thing. If not, these other terms, malfeasance, misfit, all these are going to just start coming back to you because the attorneys, based on what your reports are and based on what you have, they're going to decide whether you're negligent or not negligent.
All right, great. Thank you. Being the fire chief is more complex than simply being the head firefighter. In the volunteer world, you might have got promoted or got elected to a position because you're a good firefighter. That doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be a good fire chief. If you're being promoted to the position of authority, whether it's lieutenant, captain, whatever that rank is, make sure you get some training about how to do the job and what's expected from you at whatever level of officer you are. And the same thing in the career fire service. You might have got promoted for a variety of reasons, but you need to understand what your job is. So keep that in mind. You're not just the head firefighter when you get promoted in both volunteer and the career service. Anything to add, Manny?
No.
Let's see if we can get this video to play.
Sorry. I want to tell you about a story that we have been watching all day. It's been developing here. 4 Marion County Fire Rescue employees are now behind bars, accused in what the sheriff says was a violent, in his words, hazing incident. TV20's Alyssa Perry was at the news conference today where those arrests were made, and she explains what led to them being arrested.
Unfortunately, they took it to this level.
In announcing the arrest, Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods was left shocked. describing the circumstances of these 4 fire rescue employees under arrest. Those who are supposed to protect are behind bars.
In my 30 years as a firefighter, this is the most egregious thing that I've seen, been reported to me. And as fire chief, I was in shock.
4 Marion County Fire Rescue employees are being charged with battery, kidnapping, and robbery. Now, this is all to a connection to an incident that happened on November 16th. Deputies say the victim is an employee who has been with the department for about a year. According to investigators, 4 employees demanded the victim provide them with a TikTok video he had on his phone. When he refused, the group reportedly chased him down and removed the victim's pants and belt, then used that belt to hit him. They also took his phone and demanded he give them the password, which he refused. Deputies report the violence went further when the suspects removed the victim's underwear and continued beating him on his back. The group then dragged him across a parking lot. During the incident, investigators say the group even used a towel and a bottle of water to waterboard the victim. Deputies believe others may have known what was happening but failed to stop them.
Some were watching, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot more outside of these arrests that are going to be done from the administration here of individuals that were part of this.
Marion County Fire Rescue officials say the victim will continue working at the station, calling him a dedicated member of the team. Reporting in Ocala, Alyssa Perry, TV 20 News.
All right. Let's see if
So
I
you
get
want
my.
to start a business.
All right, let me give him a screen. Okay, so just let's go back to that slide, Manny. Sorry about that. But wow. I don't know what else to say, Manny, other than wow. This
When
was not.
it's illegal, when is it acceptable to haze? When did it become acceptable for hazing? Hazing back then was somebody hit your keys, somebody took your notebook, somebody did something. Now, this is criminal events. And keep in mind that firefighters are going to sue other firefighters automatically. You do something to disrupt their work environment, that is called harassment under the law. Literally harassment. Is it actionable? Can be. And it could be criminal like it was in this thing. As of yesterday, I believe a total of 9 people have been fired for this event. 9 other people have been fired. 4 in jail, and there's a total of 9 fired. So, and this is just the beginning. When the lawsuits hit, I'm sure there'll be more resignations coming in. So, keep in mind that if your policies do not reflect what you want your members to do, you are going to be held liable. And even if you have the policies in place and they have not been updated within the past 18 months, then and you have not trained your personnel to understand those policies, you could also be held liable. It's how the jury will look at it. You have a fiduciary duty, you got a legal duty to make sure that your firefighters understand the policies and procedures, and they have to make sure that you as a chief have to make sure those policies and procedures are always current, at 18 months or less. This way, when the lawyer looks at it and the court and the jury will look at it, you are doing everything possible, to protect. Now, are there stupid people? Absolutely. However, you as a chief are protected because you did your duty and you provided the necessary training for them. Now, if they didn't act up, they didn't follow the training, that's on them. But you protect your organization, and you protected the other personnel. Like I told you, go ahead, Chief Buckman.
Well, this was November of 2025. This is not some 10-year-old story. The question you need to ask if you're a new or interim fire chief, is this going on in your fire stations today? You need to do an investigation into harassment, hazing. I mean, all these kind of things that find out if it's going on in your fire stations. People know, people talk. As the sheriff said, and as Manny just said, the 4 that were charged, and now it's 9, the sheriff said more people will be charged because there were people who watched that Watch that one event. This was just one event that was brought forward. Do you think that this might have happened before?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, I'm like with you, man. No doubt in my mind, this was the culture of that fire station. We beat up the new kid on the block. I'm not even sure if this was a new kid. It happened to be male to male, which is again somewhat unusual in the harassment charges, but proves that it's not impossible. But you got to start looking at this stuff. You need to be afraid of this kind of action being going on in your fire department because they're going to come to you and ask you if you had any idea that this was going on. And if you said no, they're going to ask you if you ever did an investigation or did any kind of inquiry to see if it was going on. And if you say no, you're putting another little stake in your grave of you mean as a leader, that's not part of your job is to see what the culture is in your fire stations, volunteer or career. You have a liability. You have a responsibility to do your job and make sure that your people are behaving in accordance with the training. Manny keeps bringing up training. Oh my gosh, it's the most boring training in the world to attend harassment or hazing training. Yeah, it might be, but you need to make it exciting. You need to make it personal. You need to show firefighters this kind of action, reaction may occur because of their action. So do not hesitate to look into this kind of system, whether you're an existing, interim, or a new fire chief. This is one of those that will bite you up, eat you up, and bite you rather quickly and without warning and hurt like the devil. Anything else, Manny?
John, yeah, one of the things that the courts look, and you can read any court case on employment law, the first thing they're going to look is how long did it take you from the time you heard it to this time you started investigating? From the time somebody made an accusation, an allegation, to the time. When they look at a reasonable time is 1 or 2 days. If it happened on Friday and you start on Monday, that's considered reasonable because it's all right. But you got to keep in mind that the courts are going to look at if you wait 2 weeks to get started investigating, you just did yourself a disservice. Take the time and initiate the investigation. If you think that you're too close to this person because your friend and they eat dinner with you every Sunday night, how do you call? Hire somebody or find somebody to help you do the investigation. How do you call? You need to start doing things now. That's the first thing they look at is how you handle the investigation. I mean, excuse me, when it started and how you handled the investigation. So when I had to do something that involved people that I knew, I recused myself. I put somebody else, and I was still involved in the process. But however, the decisions were not mine. They became from a committee or other members there. And I took that into consideration so I can make the final decision that needs to. But I keep in mind, in every case that cities lose, that says, why did you wait 2 weeks? Why did you wait a month? You were told on the first, and you started the investigation on the 15th. That's a problem, and that is a liability for you.
Well, let's go, Manny. So there's a rumor, there's some feeling around the fire department. This is going on in the fire station. As the leader, should I contact a mayor? Should I contact my city attorney before I start the investigation or the inquiry? Or should I just start the inquiry?
Immediately start with talking to your company officers. Immediately start talking and make sure that they're telling you the truth. If not, how do you call? Then you need to find a new company officer because that's a big liability. You'd never go to the mayor's office. You never go to the city attorney's office until you have a case, start to build up a case. At that point, you said, this is what's going on. How can we best, the key word is we, best handle this thing? Because now you've talked to several people, you've looked at the policy that they violated, and now the city attorney and the mayor can help you recommend best way to solve this problem. but always do your investigations. And if it's beyond, like, they took the keys and they buried the keys in the backyard, nobody's going to sit there and you need a city attorney. But if, like, we had this waterboarding, that's considered rape in my case. When you take somebody's clothes off, that is considered rape or a sexual assault. That's jail time. So do your investigation, then seek the help of a city attorney, and then the city attorney will also get the mayor involved. So always have your process in place.
Thank you, man. Good advice. Well, I don't want to, with this is one of those issues that, again, for that current interim or new fire chief, look out for the liability that this kind of actions take in your department. Who's your boss? There you have multiple bosses. This is a pretty motley crew here from Tennessee. Glad they're not my boss. I'm sure a couple of them are on here, but I talked to a fire chief one time, and he said, I have 172,000 bosses. And I said, what? He goes, I have 172,000. I have 150 residents, and then I have all these elected officials, and they're all my boss. So as the fire chief, Manny's talked about talking to your community, getting out and talking to your community, understanding what's going on. They're your boss. Get out there and find out what's going on with them. Anything else, Manny?
No, I mean, and if you don't have the time to go and meet with the groups, create a coffee with the fire chief and their staff once a month, once a quarter. It's up to you. You says meet the fire chief, meet the deputies, meet the firefighters. Have those questions there, and they'll come to you. You talk to them, answer the question. If you don't have an answer, tell them I don't know the answer to that. However, I will investigate it and I will get back to you. Let me have your email and your phone number, and we will promise to get back to you. That right there makes you look the smartest person in the world, because they're going to tell you their story. And apart from that, you're going to tell them exactly how your department is going to fix their concern.
Yeah. I know of one fire chief, and I'm sure after this I'll find out about other fire chiefs that actually require their captain to make one public relations event a month. They want the captain to be out at church groups, civics clubs, whatever, going to kindergarten, going to school, kindergarten, doing fire prevention. They're required. That captain is required. It's part of their job performance review and large combination system. So it's not just a volunteer or career system, but you need to get out there and do your job. One of the things is you have to do as the fire chief or the leader, and not always the fire chief, but you got to figure out all these things that are coming across your desk. I was once told by Chief Steve Cox, who was fire chief in South Bend, Indiana, is what time do you go home? And I said, well, I go home, whatever, pretty late. And he goes, you know what? When 5 o'clock comes, go home, because things will still happen. You will still have work to do at 7 o'clock in the morning and come back to the office at 7 o'clock. If you've got something critical that needs to be done after 5, then do that. But don't just stay for the sake of staying. Go home. All the problems we have, you need to prioritize them, which are important, which are not that important. Where's the return on investment on the time that you spend? Because we're pulled. Fire chiefs are just yanked back and forth constantly. You have your open door policy, or you have your fire chief's door is open, and people walk by and they say something to you. Next thing you know, they've given you something else you think you need to do. Nope, don't take on other people's problems. Anything, Maddie?
One of the things that I learned a long time ago is create 3 boards. First board is the things that you as a chief will handle. Meetings with the mayor, concerns for the mayor. The next board is the things that you can delegate to your chief officers. And the third board is things that should be handled at the company level. Let your company officers handle those situations and let them report it back to you through your chain of command. This way, everybody's learning. Let the company's office do their job, and based on that, you can make adjustments as before he hits back to you. You see, but three columns, and even in my office, you'll see that things that I will handle, things that I let my wife handle, and things I'm just let my kids figure it out, and they'll let me know how things are going.
Great.
And then I will give you my thing. And that's it.
Yeah.
I don't have time to fix everything. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. So, a big part of your job is planning. I'm going to just leave this slide just up for a second. These are all the things that you need to be planning for. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but we're getting close to the end of our time. So I want to try to get finished up with some of our slides here. Uh, don't try to be something that you're not. As a result, you try that, you're not going to be very good at it. So don't play games. Be what you need to be and be damn good at it. As a leader, you use your strengths. Use your strengths. So, Manny, want to add anything?
Now, just keep in mind that you are a fire department and your job is to save lives and protect property. That's it. That is your job. And that's what everybody recognizes. That's where the trust comes in. And if you don't know how to do that, you're going to have more problems. They're not going to trust you. And if you have no trust, I can promise you, as Stephen M.R. Covey says, you'll see more delays into everything you're trying to implement. Trust is provides speed. The more they trust you, the faster you can get things done. The less they trust you, the less you'll get things done. I can tell you that as a fact of life. So
You've
keep
read
going.
that book, huh? Speed of Trust.
Yes.
Yeah. So we recommend you look at that book, Stephen M.R. Covey, The Speed of Trust. I actually got to go one of his seminars and meet him in person one time. So very, very
Me
good,
too.
very good class. Very good class. Um, balance your time. There's all kinds of things. We just talked about all the ways you're yanked back and forth. Manny just explained about don't take ownership for some things that you don't have any control over. Use the monkey thing, get the monkey off your back, so to speak. But manage your time to where you get the most return for on the investment, because that we all have only 24 hours in a day, but you need to have the priorities in order: faith, family, friends, finance, fire department. Faith, family, friends, finance, fire department. Those priorities. In the career fire service, you might actually stop at 4 where finance. But in the volunteer service, you need those 5 F's. So, keep that priority in mind. And, I think you'll be a much better fire chief if you keep that priority in mind and take some of these things off this slide and live it. So, Manny, anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
I think that's the
Perfect.
last. Yeah.
Well said.
Here's our last slide. So if you guys want to be able to get in touch with us, take a screenshot. Then we're going to go back to my slide or get out of sharing the screen and go back to where we can. If there's questions, we'll be glad to take questions and that sort of thing. So let's see if I can make this work now. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. There we go. All right. Any questions that let's see. Well, Manny, we got 31 participants.
Yeah, I see that.
All right. Well, you have our I don't want to waste your time. You have
But
our
before you log off, John, let me say one thing about your policies and procedures. That's going to be the key to thing. So when I tell you 18 months, everybody said, "Oh, that's a lot because we got hundreds." Grab a group of personnel that want to learn to be an officer and says, listen, I need 4 or 5 personnel. That's it. To look at this policy, look at it, study it, tell me if it makes sense. Let them give you all the feedback. And then once you have that, you can update it, change a couple words, go through your city attorney to make sure that the words are not are not liability. But now you've updated your policy and what you've done is that you've allowed your company officers with the chief officer or chief officers with company officers and firefighters to learn more about the process of learning how policies are created, why they're important, and and why you need to make sure they understand them. So that is one of the things that you could do very easy. You don't have to do it all. You says, listen, I need 4 volunteers. Anybody who wants to look at this policy? I need 4 volunteers for this policy. And we keep going till we get all the policies. But then everybody learns it. The other part is that you're going to find out is that they will teach the other members about the policy. They become your internal instructors. He says, listen, we went over the policy. This is important. This is why we need to do it, and this is what needs to be updated. And that's it. And you have a things are always revolving, and so people are looking at it, and as they notice changes, they'll let you know, hey, listen, a new law was just passed, that it's going to change the way this policy looks at. And so now you say, okay, well, let's look at it again, and then you can update it. But you as a chief don't have to do it. That's why you have a lot of personnel, and use them because they want to learn, and then they're learning too. So eventually, when you're sitting back sipping margaritas in the middle of the ocean, how do you call on on one of those cruise ships? You're for certain sure that those personnel know their job. They know the importance of training. They know the importance of policy, and the importance of knowing their job. So you have 2 questions here.
Do we have, okay, I missed that. I answered the one question. We use best practices. Is that not better than policies from a lawyer perspective?
We use best. No, best practices change. What is the best practice? You need to have a policy, and the reason you need a policy is because everybody is like a recipe. Everybody follows it. Everybody follows it. Best practices, nobody follows it.
All right. Chief Carr from Stockton, California, thank you for your comments. And Nova Johnson, next week we're actually doing a newly elected president, elected officials webinar. No, next week. Next week I'm doing one. So as the new Nova Johns, as the newly elected president, great starting point. Thanks us both for the presentation. So we'll look and see. All of a sudden, Manny's gone now. 3 questions. We got all those answered. When one person asked about the recording, I would tell you to wait 24 hours for the recording. It may show up earlier, but at least give the system 24 hours to get that posted and stuff. Got another question pop up here. Okay, and Nova Johns has invited her board to that webinar next week, so I guess I better get a good one in, huh? So one of my closing comments and offer, and I know Manny is the same way. You have our email addresses. Email us. We both talk to fire chiefs probably every other day about something. I got a fire chief who calls me up and goes, "You're not going to believe what my idiots did today." Oh, you're probably right. But I've probably been asked that question before. And so, not that we're going to give you the right answer, we're just going to give you a different perspective. And you can take it or you don't have to take it. But don't get stuck feeling that you're the only one with this kind of problem. So, reach out if you don't want to reach out to us, but we're far away for most of you. And nobody will ever know that you talked to us or we gave you an idea that you might have took. So I encourage you that. So that's my closing comments. We're here to help you. You don't have to do any ideas that I might have, but if you want some ideas, or I'll refer you to somebody else to try to help you resolve your problems. Manny, any closing comments?
No, I think you did. I'm sorry, my computer went dead for a second and it's still charged, but technology. No, I don't have any, but I wish everybody luck. And if anybody have questions, email me. I promise I will answer them. Okay, just email me, and I can also look at your state's state laws, because they will affect your policies and procedures. Each state has their own laws that affects them. So always look at them and see how that's going to affect what you have.
All right. Well, I want to thank Manny for doing this. He and I have never taught together. But he trusted me that I wasn't going to take him down some path of no return. So, Manny, I appreciate your effort. I appreciate your input and your contribution to the program. God bless Manny. All of you out there have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Manny, comment.
Now, the same thing. Be safe, my friends. Be safe. And I thank you for being on duty today. So all those families can sit back tomorrow and enjoy that turkey and open presents because they know that you're on duty. So be safe and take care of your families. I mean, that's just, to me, that's so vital.
All right. We're going to end the webinar now. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Bye bye.